Good evening, and welcome to the Nightly News Report. I'm your host, Christopher Barron. Tonight, we will be examining a very important and serious issue. It's something that affects millions and millions of us, and can even cause severe pain, harm, and even death. Of course, we're talking about state terror. On tonight's report, we will introduce you to the true meaning of state terror, and particularly emphasize the special psychological effects that it may have on the population as a whole. To do this, we will hear from an expert, who will introduce us to a specific example as well as talk about specific issues. Following the expert, we'll hear from a victim of state terror and learn of his or her thoughts on the matter as a whole. First, it is very important to establish a definition of state terror. State terror is a systematic use of violence by the state to create a general climate of fear in a population and thereby bring about physical change, or a particular political objective. Further, by creating a climate of fear, the population will become subservient to the state and culture will become pretty much immobile. I sat down with Mr. Bryan, an expert on this field of study, to hear what he had to say. Now, Mr. Bryan, what types of state terror are there?
Well, physical torture, the death penalty, lynching, and counterinsurgency are all examples.
Oh, really? Could you please expand upon the importance of fear in state terror?
Fear is the single most critical element to success of state terror. The state must manipulate and manufacture fear to control the population. Because of fear, anxiety, creating effects are inserted in society in which people spread rumors, some egregious, some radical, some conservative, whatever, about the ultimate power of the state and the willingness to dominate all. It is ironic that the state strives to create fear in the population, when the state fears the population more than anything else.
Oh, really? Alright. Now could you please provide us an example or an instance of this state terror at work in our world today?
Yes, of course. The routine abuses of civil rights in China reflect a prime example of state terror.
Oh, really? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So taking Mr. Bryan's comments, I decided to review China's recent history in regards to its human rights abuses and its attempt to manipulate the state. Since the 1980s, China has initiated a number of reforms. A number of reforms in its marketplace to transform it from a command economy to one of a mixed liberal economic economy. In response to these changes and the opening of the Chinese market, the state has received a number of threats from inside the Chinese own nation that might disrupt the functioning of the state. One perceived threat came from third-party chairman of the Communist Party, Hu Yongbao, who advocated liberal reforms and free thinking in the state. Soon after, in 1987, he was forced to retire and subsequently 2 years later died from a heart attack. As a way to commemorate his life, particularly his enlightening free-thinking ideas, a number of reformers, intellectuals, and students gathered in Tiananmen Square. As the movement continued and gathered support, the government decided to take command and stop the supposed protest. Therefore, on April 15th, the Chinese state sent a number of troops and tanks into the square. Little is known about the events and what actually happened, but experts estimate that between 400 and 800 people were killed. Even people inside of China are unfamiliar with the events that happened on that fateful day, suggesting that the Chinese government has actively tried to dispel any rumors or any evidence that the event even occurred. Many aspects of state terror can be seen here. For example, Hu Yongbang's forced resignation out of the Communist Party as chairman is a great example. Though it was through nonviolent means, it is a sign that there were other people with considerable power that did not want him to be part of government or any pro-reform politicians like him. The decision to send troops into Tiananmen Square is another example. By stopping the riots, the state was able to quell any remembrance of the events of Hu Yongbang, and even today, members of the Chinese public are not allowed to commemorate the events or remembrance of those in Tiananmen Square, or those that at least lost their lives that day. We were able to find one survivor from Tiananmen Square. She does not wish to be identified, but she was able to share her thoughts and her beliefs with us on what happened way back then.
I was scared. I could not express my freedom. While peaceful protesting, the government rode in a lot of tanks and body many troops. I believe they were fearful. They were afraid of what we could accomplish. But that was a reform. I saw many people die, and for years, I was afraid to speak out about what I had seen. Even today, I'm still fearful what the Chinese state can do.
We would like to thank both of our guests tonight and leave you with one final thought. What is your state doing to you? Thank you, and have a good night.